Okay, let's all take a breath. I know I could use one. Big or small, doesn't matter. Just release. Breathe in, breathe out. Now, notice your breath. Just sit with it for a minute. With breath, we begin. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz ve'haaretz hayta tohu vavohu ve'choshech al pnei tehom ve'ruach Elohim mirachefet al pnei hamayim. At the beginning of God's creating the heavens and the earth, amorphous and formless, darkness upon the face of the deep, God's breath wafting upon the face of the waters. In the language of science, in that hot, dense plasma of the infant cosmos, gravitational pressures pulled gases in, and radiation pressure pulled those gases back out. This constant seesaw reverberated throughout the volume of the universe, echoing from one end to the other. Breath begins life, the life of our universe, the life of our bodies. Vayipach be'apav nishmat chayim, vayehi ha'adam lenefesh chaya. God formed Adam from the dust of the earth. God blew the breath of life into his nostrils, and Adam became a living being. In the language of science, with a forceful breath, mothers thrust life into being. Newborn lungs draw breath in, rushing out in cry. We inhale, we exhale, we inhale, we exhale. Every one of us, every moment, and rarely give it thought. Until now. Have we ever been so aware of our breath? Since the beginning of the pandemic, I'm taking more notice of how often I suddenly release loud sighs. My family, my colleagues will tell you I do it a lot. I'm aware I have less breath for walking stairs now that I have stopped practicing yoga. When I'm in Central Park, far from anyone else, I savor the opportunity to drop my mask and deeply breathe in fresh air, thinking of the millions of inhales and exhales I have taken for granted. I receive and release, savoring that simple function. Breath is no longer neutral. Those of us fortunate to live without respiratory or pulmonary challenges notice it more now, acutely aware of the dangers it may carry. We come home and the first thing we do before kicking off shoes or putting down bags is we remove our masks so we can breathe comfortably, safely. We have a new appreciation for what it means to breathe free. We feel it in the fear of how COVID can invade the lungs, in the bad air that comes from forest fires and pollution, in the chokehold of racial violence and the echoing, desperate cry, "I can't breathe." We feel it in the packed pens of American prisons and detention centers, and in the last exile of a petite giant Bader Ginsburg's silenced breath has upended the course of our nation. One woman's breath. Together, we are living the lesson: you don't know how much you depend upon something until you realize that it might be gone. This is the crucial message of the High Holidays, voiced through our liturgy again and again. How many will pass on? How many come to be? Avinu Malkeinu, seal us for blessing in the book of life. We are Ruach Noshavet, a passing breath. This is a strange, somewhat surreal Yom Kippur, separating so we can safely draw close, keeping loved ones at a distance, yet feeling newly bound to strangers in our city, across the state, throughout the nation, even around the globe. All of it makes me think a lot more about the sacred nature of breath, from its intimate flow inside each body to the invisible net it casts around and throughout our universe. Our planet, one of trillions, is the only one that is home to life, the only one that breathes. In warm seasons, vegetation from thickest forests to microscopic plants in deep ocean waters take in carbon dioxide, and in the cold seasons, they exhale it back into the atmosphere. A mesmerizing NASA video captures this undulation with a sweep of color, lifting and falling, lifting and falling. Every year, Mother Earth takes and releases one slow breath. Humanity, animals, plants, cells, and atmosphere, all marvelously and mysteriously connected by breath. Breath binds us through time as well as space. There are more molecules of air in the breath you just took than there are breaths of air in the Earth's entire atmosphere. That means some molecules of the air that you inhale pass through the lungs of King David, Harriet Tubman, of the grandparent whose name your child carries. It means that once we leave this world, our breath will be breathed by our descendants and by the infinite souls who follow us. This symbiosis binding us into one with all that is, this for me is faith. A breathtaking truth bursting with meaning and hope. Last year, we invited you to join in focus groups to explore prayer and ritual. We began by reflecting on moments that might be described as spiritual. You shared a wide range of wonderful responses. Learning to chant Torah as an adult, making your mother's kugel recipe, breaking into tears or laughter with a dear friend, hiking, losing yourself in the symphony or listening to Lizzo. All personal experiences, but so many were met by others nodding a gesture of amen. These experiences resonate. I was thinking about what these moments have in common. In some way, our consciousness of self dissolves into a fuller awareness of the more that we are a part of and is a part of us. A profound sense of connection to a person, a sound, a space, an emotion. These moments hold a bittersweetness. They pass as quickly as they arrive, but traces remain with us, even as they are somehow released into the world. Like our breath, transient and eternal. An inhale, an exhale. We breathe in and let go. We spend a lot of time struggling to name these uniquely human experiences, to capture them in words. Faith, spirituality, holiness, God. But how can we possibly describe our finite selves brushing up against the infinite, time pausing, even as that moment fades away? Perhaps the reason it's so hard to name this heartbreaking sweetness is because it mirrors the mystery of breath, speaking so much without any words at all. Biblical Hebrew, a terse language with a very small vocabulary, has several words for breath. Neshama, ruach, nefesh, words which also refer to soul, spirit, wind. From the time of the ancients till now, these are concepts that are tangled together, interlocking what is embodied with what is ephemeral. And we also have no less than 72 names for God. Nicknames, really. Adonai, Shekhinah, Avinu Malkeinu, just to name a few. They are descriptors, each expressing an aspect of how or when we might experience what is sacred. Their number and range of meanings speak to the impossibility of capturing the experience in words. But there are 4 letters which our biblical ancestors chose to express the everythingness, the everywhereness, the everytimeness, the oneness that in English we refer to as God. Yud, He, Vav, He. Okay, so there is a word, but here's the kicker. It's impossible to pronounce. It's a bunch of open sounds, like breath. Let's just pause and take that in. This name of God, a name so mysterious, so powerful, that it was only uttered by the most sacred person, the high priest, in the most sacred space, the Holy of Holies, on the most sacred day, Yom Kippur. That evasive, unutterable name is the sound of our breath? Yes. It's the sound we make every moment we live, without thinking or trying or praying. But these 4 letters are imbued with meaning, if not with articulated sound. Yud, He, Vav, He are connected to the Hebrew root meaning to be, to exist. They encompass all that was, all that is, and all that ever will be. We are, God is. God is, we are. All of that in one breath. With breath, we begin. Maybe you're like me. Sometimes I get up to do something and then I pretty quickly forget what it is. When I go back to where I was, I remember. When we feel swept up in the noise and the chaos swirling around, let's go back to breath. Breath is where you came from and where you are going. Breath is now in its purest form, anchoring in its consistency, its natural rhythm, its natural pattern. When everything else seems beyond our control and we know how that feels, breath provides us a place of return. Every day, we average 20,000 breaths, 20,000 opportunities to start anew, to reset. Imagine if we luxuriated in these possibilities. Instead of living in the short staccato that pushes us from one moment to the next without pause, what if we deeply inhale what's possible and thoroughly exhale what holds us back? Toxins from our minds, from our bodies, from the body politic. On this sacred day, when we shed what is no longer useful, let's commit to giving deep, cleansing breaths a new meaning. Let's live them. We inhale, we exhale, effortless until it's not. When breathing becomes challenged by a virus or a knee on the neck, by panic or sorrow or despair, go back to the steady, quiet stream of life rushing within you every moment. As we find ourselves holding our collective breath, anxious and fearful of what comes next, let's turn inward for strength to turn outward. Breath is intangible, but not fragile. Breath is persistent, affirming. Breath means life, means hope, means possibility. Breath is our superpower. In the words of Sylvia Plath, I took a deep breath and listened to the old brag of my heart. I am, I am, I am. We inhale, we exhale. We inhale, we exhale, and rarely give it a thought. Until now. Now, breath begins.